blows my fucking mind. But meditation literally protects you from heart attacks. Literally. Physiologic mechanisms. It's like anyone, a fourth-year medical student, if I took the time, if we were talking on chat, I could walk a fourth-year medical student through this process. It's not BS. It's just literally how our body works. You guys want to learn something new? We're doing physical meditation? Dad bod? Or do you guys want to do something a little bit more mental? How about I teach you guys how to breathe? Okay, so I'm going to teach you guys how to breathe. So, so thanks for the sub, Gizmo. So here's what we're going to do. I want you guys to just breathe in. We're going to start with abdominal breathing. So what I want you to do is try to hold your chest as steady as possible. And as you breathe in, I want you to push your stomach out. And as you breathe out, I want you to pull your stomach in and pull your navel towards your spine. The sound on notifications is very loud. Alert box. Let's turn that down. Okay. I'll teach you guys how to sit too. We'll teach you how to sit. Posture is easy. So I want you guys, when you breathe out, so I'm going to stop reading Twitch chat. So stop typing. Because if you're typing, you're probably not breathing. So when you breathe in, let your navel come out. When you breathe out, pull your stomach in. Now I want you guys to watch regular breath, so watch my shoulders. That's regular breath, right? You guys see how much my chest and shoulders are moving? Abdominal breath. You guys got that? So belly comes out when you inhale, and belly moves back in when you exhale. Okay, so now we're going to add the second phase of what this practice is called triphasic breathing. So now when you're fully inhaled with your belly, then what I want you to do is mindfully expand your chest and then breathe more. So there's going to be like a second phase. You guys feel that? So belly first, then chest. And what you'll find is that you can actually breathe more than you can with just your belly if you do the chest breathing after. So let's practice that for 3 rounds. And then what we're going to do is the final phase, the third phase of triphasic breathing, which is going to be you're going to raise your shoulders, which is going to be clavicular breathing. So you have 3 areas which kind of control the expansion of your lungs. Your belly, which is your diaphragm, your chest. So chest expansion is going to be like your muscles around your ribs. And the third area is actually your clavicles. So when you breathe in, expand the chest, and then lift up your shoulders, and you'll be able to get just a little bit, like 5% more breath in. And then do each phase at a time. So start with abdomen, chest, clavicles. Abdomen, chest, and clavicles. If you feel dizzy, take breaks between your breaths. Dizziness is from elevated CO2. A CO2 that's too low. If you're yawning, that's fine. Just go ahead and yawn. Don't suppress it, and then go back to the practice. So now close your eyes and do 5 rounds on your own. Start with the belly, transition to the chest, raise the shoulders, and then out. I'd say you should do this practice before you charge your laser beams, but I'm going to stop talking for a minute. We're going to do 5 breaths. Okay. I'm going to answer a bunch of questions that I see. Okay, so the first thing is, can you change the way you subconsciously breathe during the day? Yes. So if you practice breathing, you'll start to breathe less from the chest and more from the abdomen. You can train yourself to breathe deeper. You can train yourself to breathe slower. Absolutely. Second question, Domination Time asks, CO2 too low equals dizziness. What about CO2 too high? Is that the same thing? Absolutely not. So spiritual experiences and meditation are believed to be due to sort of like toxic levels of CO2 in the brain. So when you start to get a trippy experience during meditation, the most prevailing, or at least I think the best neuroscience theory for why people feel like an expansion of consciousness and other things like that is due to elevated levels of CO2. So what happens when you meditate on a very regular basis is your body acclimatizes to low levels of oxygen and high levels of CO2 and a very low respiratory rate. Okay? So what that means is that for a normal human, so I see someone understands respiratory physiology in chat and says, CO2 too high equals acidosis equals more breathing. Yes, that's the standard physiologic response. When your CO2 is elevated, your brain tells you to breathe more so that you can breathe off that CO2. The interesting thing is when you meditate, your body becomes acclimatized to high levels of CO2 to where it recruits other kinds of mechanisms that don't require rapid breathing. And when you meditate for a very regular basis, you begin to have a very low respiratory rate, but it doesn't damage you. You shouldn't try to restrict your respiratory rate. It's just like when you guys meditate, like, I don't know if you guys realize this, but your respiratory rate is dropping, right? When you do like triphasic breathing, like it's not hard to do like 5 breaths a minute. Like it's really not. Like each breath. That was like a 15-second breath, like maybe 12 or 15. And so if I breathe in for 7 seconds and breathe out for 7 seconds, that's a respiratory rate of 4 per minute. That's 4 breaths a minute, right? Which is like not that hard to do. I can tell you breathe in for 7. That's a 15-second breath. So what happens in meditation is that your body becomes acclimatized to high levels of CO2 in the brain And what people believe is that when you have high levels of CO2 in the brain for prolonged periods of time, you actually start to have like a trippy spiritual experience. The other thing that's really fascinating is one of the ways through which meditation protects you from heart attacks is the other thing. So question for chat. Does anyone know what your heart does when it becomes starved for oxygen? Let's test people's physiologic knowledge. What does your heart do when it doesn't get enough oxygen? You guys know? Okay. It dilates the coronary. That's correct. And what is the long-term effect of chronic hypoxia on the heart? Vasodilation is a temporary effect. So it sends signals to create collateral circulation, right? So when your heart is starved for oxygen, so this is what happens in the heart. As your arteries get clogged, the heart angiogenesis, that's correct. So as your arteries get clogged, the amount of space through which blood can travel to nourish your heart goes down. As you get a blocked artery, your heart starts to become starved for oxygen. As it becomes starved for oxygen, it does two things. It sends immediate signals to dilate the artery. So if we dilate the artery, we increase its like how wide it is, which facilitates more flow. The other thing that it does is send signals to create more blood vessels, angiogenesis. Right? So when you meditate for prolonged periods of time, your oxygen levels start to go lower, but not in a damaging way because it's like a chronic thing. Your body acclimatizes to it. And it sends signals to your heart to create collateral circulation, which in turn means that if you get a blocked coronary artery and you're a regular meditator, the damage from that coronary artery is going to be way less because your body has developed alternate paths of circulation through meditation. Blows my fucking mind. But meditation literally protects you from heart attacks. Literally. Physiologic mechanisms. It's like anyone, a fourth-year medical student, if I took the time, if we were talking on chat, I could walk a fourth-year medical student through this process. It's not BS. It's just literally how our body works. As our breathing rate goes down, our oxygen level goes down. And you can't normally meditate like for 20 minutes a day until you get really good at it. And then like you have these stories of like these yogis in the Himalayas that go into like semi-hibernation states. Right? And like, I don't know if you guys have heard about this stuff. Then you've got other stuff like Wim Hof, who does like have you guys heard about Wim Hof the Iceman? So this is a guy that like learned this Nepalese, like this Himalayan meditation technique, which is what they do to stay warm. So you have like these yogis that are living in the Himalayas that are like not wearing coats. They just like hang out there in like a simple shawl. And the reason that they can sustain that is because they do bizarre things to their physiology. And like Wim Hof is a guy who learned this stuff, and then it has like all these like physiologists like testing him. They stick him in like sub-zero like temperatures, and he like doesn't get frostbite or die. He just is fine. So like meditation has a lot of profound impacts on the human body. Okay, so we've got a couple of other questions. So let me just get to these. Okay, so Tom, you shouldn't be anteriorly translating your T3, T4 vertebrae. Your clavicles should be going up, not forward. If that makes sense. Okay. So people are asking questions about, when I try to meditate, I worry a lot about it not going as well as it went before. That makes it very hard to clear my mind. Any advice? Congratulations! Matt the Strummer also asks, is it normal for meditation to go really well at first, but then get more difficult after a while? Absolutely. So the tricky thing about meditation is the way that you enter the no mind state of meditation is by having no expectations. Right? So like the first time, if you guys were around for charging the laser beam technique, we did a meditation technique and I asked people, what does it feel like? And one person in chat literally said, it feels like I'm charging a laser beam. And the cool thing is, like, when I don't tell you what to expect, your mind cannot have an expectation. And therefore, you can sit fully with the experience. Once you sit with an experience and you feel like you have some kind of experience in meditation, then that creates an expectation to have that experience again. And that expectation makes it hard to meditate. So the most difficult spiritual experience to have in meditation is the second one, not the first one. The first one is actually easy. And then once you start expecting, then it becomes hard because then you're attached to that meditation. Then you create the thought, oh, this isn't working. I'm not feeling the way that I used to feel. It's not working the way that it used to. This isn't working. That's what you tell yourself when you meditate. And that thought in and of itself is why you don't get into meditation, the state of meditation. So is it hard for it to happen? Is it hard for like you to do it after a while? Absolutely. That's the most common challenge in meditation. And the cool thing is, once you recognize that, okay, the reason I'm not able to meditate is because I'm trying to meditate. And the reason I'm trying to meditate is because now I understand what meditation is because I did it before. That's a bizarre and paradoxical and wonderful, hilarious challenge. And so I would say, like Matt and this person who asked this question, is it hard? Absolutely. So just recognize that. Recognize that for some time, it's going to be harder for me to get that meditation going again. And then also to return to the technique. So your thought is, you're going to have all these thoughts, right? You're going to be like, oh, it's not working. It's not working. So just go back to the technique. Just focus on your breath. Ignore whether it's working. Stop trying to make it work. If it's working, that's fine. If it's not working, that's fine too. Just focus on the technique. Just focus on the technique, focus on the technique, focus on the technique. The more you focus on the technique, that's what got you there in the first place. That's what'll get you there again.